I'm your host, Kelly Morgan, indie author and indie publisher. Welcome to another episode of The Author's Mic. Welcome to today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome another episode of The Author's Mic. My name is Kelly, indie author, indie publisher, and you guys know it's Monday because I have a guest with me. Today I have Terri, I'm going to try to say the name correctly, Kozlowski. Is that right?
Very good.
Thank you. And she has decided to come on the author's mic and join us and share her journey. You guys, so we're just going to get right down to it because I want to learn all about her. Terri, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, Kelly.
Well, I always like to ask authors when they come on, you're a published author, you're sitting here in front of me, gonna have this great conversation, but I always want to find out like how did you get here? Like what started this journey? And you wrote this book and then you also had the courage to publish it. So what was that like?
So, if somebody would have asked me years ago, because they did, I have a overcoming story about childhood sexual trauma. And so, my memoir that I wrote, Raven Transcending Fear, is that overcoming story. And I was asked in my 20s to write my story. And it wasn't just no, it was hell no, that wasn't going to happen. And then the summer before I turned 50, I got pregnant with a book. And I sat down and all my spare time, I just was sitting at my computer typing like crazy. And I call it, it was downloaded into me because I wrote over 150,000 words. And that's not how long the book is, because by the time I was done editing, it ended up being just around 70,000. So I cut out half of what was written because the writing process for me was really the last therapeutic portion of two things. One, remembering everything, because as I was writing, certain stories came to light that I didn't even remember. And in the editing, so it took 9 months to write the book and then 18 months to edit the book before I actually published. And I did not self-publish. I went with a small press publishing company, and she handles all that awful stuff that I didn't want to deal with. And my first book came out, and it was definitely a learning process because I'm one of those people that I don't tackle things unless I kind of know where I'm going. And I had no clue what the publishing, I didn't have any idea what it looked like, how to proceed with it. And I started looking for writers' workshops, and I ended up doing one with Hay House and went to one of their on-site writers workshops and got to meet with them as a publishing house, got to meet other authors from Hay House. And then, of course, when you do that, they give you a free entry into their contest. I did not win. um, but through that, I learned so much about what it takes to become a published author in a day where KPI, Kindle, and Amazon was not fully fledged out as a way to self-publish.
Right. Yes. I think for a lot of people nowadays, it's very easy. I won't say easy, but there's lots of avenues to get your book out,
Hmm.
right? Besides
Yes,
a traditional publisher. And I think
right.
a lot of indie authors, figure out how to publish the book, but then there's the
Hmm.
marketing aspect and all the other stuff that comes with getting the book into the hands of people who want to read it.
Yeah, and I have to say that the Hay House Writers Workshop, they did spend, I mean, it was 3 days. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they did spend a whole morning about marketing because I did not realize that the reality was to become a published author. That's fine. You can put your book out there, but if you actually want it to get it in readers' hands, that's your responsibility to do all the marketing.
Mhm.
And because of that, I started my author page and I started blogging every week. And I ended up turning that blog, and I started it in 2019, January The first Tuesday of January was my first article in 2019. And I've been publishing. I went weekly up until the end of 2024 and started doing it every other week because I'm still working. I'm retiring next year, but yeah, I'm still working. And I ended up turning, my son made a comment to me that my generation doesn't read. We listen to podcasts. So I ended up turning that blog article into a podcast, and I was podcasting every week. And that just, as you know, is extremely time consuming.
It really is.
It really is. And so at the end of 2024, I ended the podcast because I that was happening bi-weekly at that point, but I was originally doing it weekly from 2020 through 2023. It was weekly. 2024 was bi-weekly, and then I ended it after 205 episodes. I ended the podcast. So I completely understand what it takes to do this and the time and the commitment. So I give you great credit for doing what you're doing and helping authors out. It's a very unique niche that you have. So more power to you. I hope you have, and I'm part of a writers group. I can absolutely send authors your way.
Well, the thing about it was is that when I published my first book, I didn't know anything about the publishing world either, and I didn't take a workshop or whatever. I got scammed, right? And so I
Ah,
found a publisher who wasn't really a publisher who took my
yeah.
money and my book, and I had to go all through all this stuff to get it back.
Hmm.
And then when I got it back, I still didn't know what to do with it. And so then I thought, well, I'm going to self-publish. And so I did, but I had no clue about the marketing aspect of it. Nobody told me, right?
Hmm.
So you don't know what you don't know. And so
Right.
having an idea, taking the seminar probably helped you, get ready
Hmm.
whatever this was going to look like. And
Right.
it probably helped you transform into what now, because that author page to me looks like a full-blown website.
It is. It is a full-blown website, and it ended up between the podcast. I have my life coaching. I ended up having a class. People started asking me, how can I get this online? So I have two classes now, one about gratitude, one about setting personal boundaries, and it keeps growing because my specific passion is writing and helping women overcome their fear and limiting beliefs, because my fear and limiting beliefs kept me in a very sad place for a very long time. But in my story, one of the things that I recognized early on was that I was able to be aware of certain things that most trauma victims are not. Number one, I never felt alone. I always knew God, spirit, whatever you want to call it, was with me. So God and I had very, very serious arguments about the whole why me factor during my teenage years when I was struggling with why me. And as I moved forward and with the growth process, the other thing that I always knew was it wasn't my fault. So that's also very unusual for a sexual trauma victim to know that it wasn't her fault. And my specific trauma, my mother allowed three men to rape me so that she could have free drugs because she was a drug addict and alcoholic. So it was a one-time thing, but because it was at the hand of my mother allowed it to occur. She stood in the room and watched. There was a whole other issue of who can I trust? If you can't trust your mother,
Yeah.
who on the planet are you supposed to trust? So that really was my core wound, was that I trusted nobody and I was scared of everybody. And when you're fearful, that is number two on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you don't grow. You stay stuck there until you find a place where you feel safe. And it took me until I was 28 to find somebody that I felt safe with. And at that point, I started massive growth spurts. And now I talk about the fact that I think at every 10 years, on our 20th and our 30th, on our 40th and our 50th birthdays, we need to do software update. Windows always is coming out with new software updates. But we need to have a software update because as we move through life, we have to realize that, as you're coming out, when you're turning 20, you're becoming an adult. You're getting ready to enter the world and full blown responsible for yourself. And by the time you're 30, most people, especially women, are having children at this place. So now you're dealing with family. So you need to have not the same software as I did when I quit growing at 11 and everything was terrifying to me. Because when you bring a child into a world that you're already afraid for yourself, you pass on that generational fear to your child. And I didn't want to do that. So I worked on myself really hard when I was pregnant because I didn't want to do those things. And that comes out in the memoir. But we need to have that software update and understand that growth process. So for me, I just kept growing and growing and growing. And now I have a full website. And I'm responsible for that website. I don't have anybody working on my website. That's all me.
See, and that's really cool because you took something that was painful and you turned it around and you made it into something so that now you're in a position to even help others. And I think
Correct.
that's so important that you can not only help yourself, but then you can help somebody else. And hopefully they'll pass that along and so on and so on. And that's how you build a community. And that's what I always
Correct.
say, right? I'm
Yes.
constantly saying these things. So when I was looking at your website, I said that you have like the blueprint to overcoming
Hmm.
fear. And I love that because I'm like, oh my God, she's like singing my song because so many of us are afraid to do
Correct.
even little things. And when you're like,
Hmm.
it keeps you stuck, I'm like, God, you're right. It can keep you stuck for a very long time. The thing I've learned about fear is that once you actually step out and do it, it's never as scary as you made it out to be, right? It's never
Correct.
you took it to these places where, oh my God, and you told yourself not to do it, but when you actually do it, you're like, oh, all right, it wasn't nearly what I thought it was going to be. Every time I've been afraid of something, that's that how it's turned out.
So what that mechanism is that's your egoic mind making sure that you stay small and you don't go out of your comfort zone and you don't grow. So that's the ego's job is to keep you safe. And if you stay in your lane and you stay small and you don't do anything bold, you're going to stay safe and you're not going to try anything new. And you can't fail if you don't try.
That is so true.
So, so the reality is if you actually listen to your soul is always whispering to you, go ahead, try it. It's not as bad as you think. And we don't tend to get quiet enough to listen to our soulful stuff because that egoic mind just goes and goes and goes and yells and screams. It's very loud, very obnoxious. It's always in your face. But the whispers of your soul is really and truly what drives us forward when we decide to take that bold step and go ahead and try to make that website. Go ahead and start writing that book. Go ahead and put yourself out there on Facebook and Instagram. And in doing that, you know, somebody asked me, am I afraid of trolls? And I said, really and truly, I will listen to real, true critiques of my book. But if you just want to tell me that I did it wrong, you don't know my story. And then therefore, I don't give you the time of day because it really is about me putting myself out there. And, have you put yourself out there? Kelly certainly has put herself out there, but all those trolls out there have not put themselves out there. So we're the ones that are braving greatly and moving forward and doing those things that the rest of the trolls are sitting back wishing that they could do.
Right. I agree with you 100%. It's tough, especially when you're out there on social media. And a lot of us, when we're out there, we're using social media as a scorecard, right? That's kind of how we judge our quote unquote success or lack thereof, right? By how many people are watching, how many people clicked on it, how many people commented. And that's not necessarily true, right? And I've learned this over time, but it takes time. It takes time to get there.
Correct. One of the things that, I've been doing this since 2019. Okay. And this year I got my email list above 500, which was the goal because, I'm one of those that went out and spent the money to take the courses to learn how to do all the email marketing. I took, all different ways on how to promote myself. I've done all that. And for the most part, I have I put in all the processes and I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. It still doesn't mean that like that it's going to happen.
Well,
And
I've learned that organic growth is slow.
correct. And all of mine has been organic growth
And that's
because yes, absolutely. Because that's my community. I'm speaking their language, they're speaking my language. And although it's taking me time, I'm now seeing much faster growth. And believe it or not, despite the fact that my podcast has not had any new episodes this year, my podcast is still growing and still getting new listeners because I decided, hey, I'll make some playlists and I'll promote the playlist with certain things. So, when we start your healing journey was the first playlist, and I had 6 episodes on there, and I started promoting that. And there are some weeks I get 500 new downloads because of the fact that I'm still promoting the same content. And it's about learning how to reuse that same content. Social media posts that I created in 2019, I still use now and then because it fits a certain theme that maybe this month I'm talking about. Then I just go back and into, my cache and look at, searched terms, and certain ones pop up and I'm like, okay, well, let's go ahead and use these. That means I don't have to create anything new because my themes are very, very similar. I have 7 core themes that I write about. And out of those 7 core themes, everything, I mean, that's it. That's what my brand is. And it's called Soul Solutions. And I have the first book in the series that I'm writing is Awakening Awareness, because awareness is the hardest part of any healing journey, is that awakening to yourself to say, hey, all of you don't know who I'm supposed to be. I know who I'm supposed to be. And people in their 40s tend to start really waking up to, I've put all my energy into my family, into my kids. Where am I? Who is this person that is doing everything for everybody? I got lost in the process. And especially for moms, it can be an epiphany when they say, you know what? Self-care isn't selfish. And so it's going through that awakening process. So that's the first book. The second book is going to be Soul Solutions for Overcoming Fear and Limiting Beliefs, which was my key reason for moving forward. So I'm in the process of editing that book. So hopefully that book will come out in the spring of next year.
And so if people want to follow you and learn more about you, what's the website address?
TerriKozlowski.com, TerriKozlowski.com.
And it's so funny. A lot of the things that you say resonate with me, things that I do, things that I talk about on the podcast, things that I've talked about with other authors, things that I just incorporate into my own life, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about self-care as well and giving yourself grace. And it's okay to stop and pivot and do all of those good things. So I agree with you.
Absolutely.
So before I let you go, let me give everybody my laundry list of things. As always, if you are an author and you want to be on the author's mic, it's really easy. You go to my website, you go to the Be a Guest tab, fill out the information, you are a guest. There's really no pitching involved, and I promise you, it is truly that simple. If you are an author and you're trying to figure out, where to go with this book, I've got a 44-page guide. It's free. Go get it, start your journey. It's called So You Want to Write a Book. If you want to support me, I got 2 books out there. You Sound White and Wait for It. Wait for It's an audiobook as well. You can listen to a snippet on the website. You can get them wherever good books are sold. I'll ship them to you. But like I said, no pressure. Get them wherever good books are sold. And lastly, if you're an author, twofold. If you're an author, we've got a book club. You can pitch us. It's called the IRS, Indie Reader Society. We only read indie authors. And if you're a reader, you can join us, the IRS. All the information is on the website. So, Terri, you have all of this great information about limiting beliefs and overcoming fear. And I would bet listening to your authentic self and self-care and all the things that I hear and that I practice, but so many people, I think, find it so hard to start. So if somebody came to you and said, all this sounds great, sounds wonderful, but where do I start? I just need a push in the right direction, but I don't know where to start. What would you tell them?
You start by being present with yourself. And what I mean by that is in this fast paced world, we don't pause. We just keep reacting to all the things that happen around us. And the reality is, if we pause and become completely present in this moment, we realize that all that extraneous stuff really doesn't matter. What matters is that Kelly and I are having a fabulous conversation about being an author, two authors, and to Kelly's helping to promote authors. And in this moment, all is well. And when we realize that the present moment is where everything happens, we can't be afraid of the past because that's depression. And that means your focus is in the past, not on the present moment. And if you're anxious, that means you're fearful about the future, which means you're worried and thinking about the future. And again, not in the present moment. Being present is the first step into all those things that we need to do for our healing journey, whatever that healing journey is. And only in the present moment can you have self care. Only in the present moment can you truly make a connection with another person. And only in the present moment can you just be.